Well, the history of Anno goes back to 2010. At the time I was heading up one of the research and development sites for GlaxoSmithKline. I was told in beginning of February of that year I had to close the site, make people redundant, move some to our base at Stevenage. So the decision was, would I move? Would I stay with the company? I worked with Norman Lewis, he was one of my directors. And we decided to take the King's Shilling, or in this case the GlaxoSmithKline redundancy package and pension, and do what we'd always wanted to do, and that was open a distillery. We'd spent a lot of time in the States and tried some very nice spirits in the distilleries over there, in the bars. And as you do after a few drinks, you think, why couldn't we do that? We could do that with scientists. When we had the opportunity to get a redundancy package and a pension from GlaxoSmithKline, we decided to invest some of that, which the wives allowed us a little portion thereof. We put it into a distillery. Not the distillery we're in now, in Marden. Life started off in the corner of my wife's kitchen with a 2-litre alembic still that we got from Portugal for about €120. Being techie types, we went up to the British Library in London and spent a few weeks researching the history of gin going back quite a few centuries. Identified 100 botanicals that we liked. We found over 350 different botanicals used over the centuries. We picked 100 and requested samples from the botanical suppliers and started distilling, which was of great interest to my neighbours. They used to ask why there was an alcohol lorry turning up with lots of people carrying barrels into the house, and we declared we were a distillery. So that had the free tasting panel lined up. Also had Kim, my youngest daughter, another scientist. She's a biologist. She was in Malaysia teaching people to scuba dive. Got a phone call from me one day. How do you fancy leading sales and marketing on this new distillery we're opening? She said, end of the dive season, I'll come home. She flew home. We then introduced 2 interesting facts. One, the distillery was in the corner of her mum's kitchen, and the other was we couldn't afford to pay her for 2 years. So that went down well. But she did lots of distilling. Norman and I did lots of blending and making different gins. And we had 3 lovely gins that we made: a floral gin, a very citrusy style of gin, and a woody style of gin. And we did lots of blind tastings with our friends and neighbours. They all loved what we were making. They could pick our gins out, put them above a lot of the commercial gins that we put into the blind tasting. So we put some serious money down and ended up with the premises in Marden. Ordered the still from Christian Karl. They're based in Germany. So she's a lovely piece of kit, and she arrived just before Christmas 2012. We installed everything ourselves, put all the plumbing in, everything apart from the final hooking up of the electrics. So we started operating middle of 2013. And the first batch of Kent Dry, which was based on the floral gin that we developed, that came out in October of that year. Subsequently won a gold medal at the World Spirits Competition in San Francisco. So for our first product, we were very pleased. Our lovely 300-litre copper pot still made by Christian Karl in Germany. Her name is Patience, and you might ask, why Patience? Her name comes from the fact that we built her over Christmas 2012 and waited for the licenses to be moved from my house in Maidstone down to Marden. Didn't seem like a terribly complicated job, but it took quite a long time for the HMRC to move it. Great support locally, but we did have a few issues up in Liverpool for the bond and up in Glasgow for the main licenses. So it wasn't until the middle of 2013 when the licenses finally came through. We were thinking of a name for a lovely lady, and Patience seemed quite apt because she'd been sitting there for many months without any use whatsoever. So hence Patience. Our company's continuing to grow. We had crowdfunding last year, so that brought new funds in. So we're looking to expand, more products in the portfolio. We already have 7 vodkas and gins, mainly gin. So we'll be looking to put perhaps some more flavoured gins onto the market. Still very buoyant at the moment. We're also looking to repeat the manufacture of a whisky. We made the first whisky ever made in Kent. Released that on World Whisky Day last year. and that's gone down exceedingly well. We're nearly out of that. We just made a limited stock. Western Brewery did the fermentation, and then we did the distilling and aging. So we'll be looking to work with Robert Wicks to do more of that. We're also working with a couple of other wineries, so we're going to be making some products and co-branding with them, but the names of those are under wraps at the moment. We'll be releasing some more spirits, so we'll be moving into some interesting rums. We think rum's going to take off, so some craft rums will be coming out from us later in the year. We do have a couple of other projects which we think will be very high press when we release them, but they're under wraps at the moment. Kim won't let me talk about those. Okay, that's it from us. So lots going on, lots of exciting stuff. Look out for some new products.